The desert wind whipped around my face as the red taillights of my parents' car faded into the endless stretch of highway. My shoes sank into the loose gravel, one hand wrapped around my 6-year-old son Mason's shoulder. He clung to me barefoot, eyes wide and glistening in the moonlight. "Mommy, are they coming back?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat burned. My parents' words still echoed in my ears, cruel, clipped, final. "Leeches like you need to learn to crawl." My father hadn't even turned around when he said it. He just shoved the back door open, grabbed my duffel bag, and threw it into the dirt. My mom didn't say a word, just watched from the passenger seat with her arms crossed, lips curled in contempt. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. "You're 25, Tessa. Stop acting like the world owes you," she muttered as I tried to reason with them. Mason had been asleep when it started a quiet argument over money that had turned into screaming when I said no, I couldn't give them the child support money for a short loan. Dad nearly drove into a ditch, he was yelling so hard. I had no idea this was how the night would end. No phone, no water, no signal, no mercy. We were in the middle of nowhere. The last exit was 40 minutes ago. The road ahead twisted into blackness. Mason pulled at my hoodie. "Mommy, my feet hurt." I crouched down and wrapped him in my sweater, cradling him as I sat beside the duffel bag. I had packed it for a 2-day visit with my parents, not a survival trek through the Mojave. There was a single half-eaten granola bar in the front pocket and a pair of my old ballet flats. I slipped them onto his feet, even though they were 3 sizes too big. He didn't complain. "Try to sleep, baby. I'll figure something out." He nodded and curled up beside me on the dirt shoulder, using the duffel bag as a pillow. I wrapped myself around him and tried not to cry. They had always hated that I kept Mason. "You ruined your future," Mom hissed when I came home pregnant at 19. "No man's gonna marry a girl with baggage," Dad snapped. I believed them for years. But Mason was the only person who ever looked at me like I mattered. The only reason I'd survived. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat upright until my back ached and the stars faded into a dull gray dawn. No cars passed, not one. I imagined headlines, "Single, mother, and child found dehydrated on Route 96." And my body went cold. Just as I started thinking we might have to walk, I saw a pickup truck in the distance. It slowed when it spotted us, pulling over with a long sigh of brakes. The window rolled down and an older woman in a faded denim shirt leaned out. "You two okay?" she called. I nodded too quickly. "Our car broke down," I lied. She didn't press. She looked at Mason curled on the ground, then at me, my cracked lips, the dirt under my fingernails. "Get in." I hesitated. She leaned over and popped the passenger door open. "I don't ask twice." We climbed in. Mason didn't even stir. Her name was Sandra. She didn't ask for details, just handed me a bottle of water and turned up the heater. Her truck smelled like lemon balm and old books. For the first 5 minutes, the only sound was Mason's soft breathing and the road humming beneath us. "Finally," she said, "you look like someone whose family should be ashamed." I looked at her startled. "I was kicked out too once," she said quietly. "Pregnant, cold. Now I run a mechanic shop and rescue stray girls. Looks like I just picked up another." I covered my mouth and started sobbing. She drove us to her place, a tiny house behind her shop with a cot and a couch and enough food to make Mason smile. For the next 2 weeks, she gave us shelter. But what she gave me was more than that. She gave me quiet. And time. Time to feel the pain. Time to realize that what my parents did wasn't just cruel. It was calculated. It was punishment for disobedience, for independence, for refusing to be the family's servant. They had tried to break me. But in that desert, something else had snapped instead. And I didn't plan on ever crawling again. It took me exactly 19 days to recover physically. I tracked the bruises on my ankles like a silent calendar. My cracked heel, the ache in my lower back from the gravel shoulder, Mason's blistered feet, all of it healed. But something deeper was just starting to wake up. Sandra didn't hover. She offered space, hot meals, and work. By day 10, I was helping in the garage. I learned to change oil, rotate tires, even replace a timing belt. She paid me in cash and quiet confidence. "You're sharper than you look," she said, handing me a dirty wrench. "I've always been sharper," I replied, wiping my hands. "They just never let me prove it." One evening, Mason was asleep on Sandra's couch, and I found myself scrolling through my old phone, which Sandra had helped me charge. I opened our family group chat. The last message from my mom read, "You always twist things to make us look bad. No one told you to bring your drama into our weekend." I stared at that line for too long. My drama, as if they hadn't kicked me and my child into the desert at 2 a.m. My hands shook, not from fear, but from purpose. I didn't want revenge that looked like rage. I wanted removal, I wanted deletion, erasure. They had thrown me away, so I decided to erase them. Not loudly, not messily, completely. The next day, I changed my last name. Sandra signed as my witness. My driver's license, social security records, health insurance, every trace of the name Carver vanished. Mason's last name was updated too. I gave him mine, not my father's. I cut the phone line and got a new number. No forwarding address, no online trail. Every document they used to control me gone. But erasing them from paper wasn't enough. So I went deeper. I found the family lawyer's contact in an old email thread. I wrote a formal letter, drafted with Sandra's help, declaring that I wanted no part of their estate, their assets, or their name. I wanted out of the will. I wanted it notarized. When Sandra asked if I was sure, I said, "They threw me out like trash. I'm just putting the lid on the can." Then came the final step. Mason asked one night, "Mommy, why don't we visit Grandma and Grandpa?" I knelt down, kissed his forehead, and said, "Because we're building a family from scratch. One that doesn't hurt people." He looked confused for a second, then nodded slowly. He never asked again. The more I removed, the more I felt my body lift, like their cruelty had weight and I was finally setting it down. I started writing again, something I hadn't done since high school. Short essays, stories, thoughts. Sandra read one by accident and handed it back, saying, "You've got something, don't hide it." By the third month, I had 3 part-time gigs, one at the garage, one at the diner down the street, and one writing short ghost pieces for a parenting blog. I was rebuilding a life, not repairing one. But then something strange happened. A letter arrived, not to my new name, not to my new P.O. box, but addressed to Tessa Carver, in childish handwriting. Mason had written it. He slipped it into the mailbox outside the garage without me knowing. It said, "Dear Grandma and Grandpa, I love Mommy. You were mean to her, but if you say sorry, maybe we can see you again. Love, Mason." He drew a heart with 3 people inside it, one of them with a huge smile and 2 frowns. I read it, my hands frozen. Sandra walked in and saw me holding the letter. "You gonna send it?" "No," I whispered. "I'm going to show it to them." Her eyebrows rose. I didn't mean by mail. I meant in person. 3 months later, I drove the same road they'd abandoned me on. But this time, I wasn't limping. I wasn't crying. And I wasn't begging for a place to sleep. Mason was at a friend's sleepover Sandra arranged. She said, "You go settle this, not for them, for you." I parked down the street from their house. It was exactly as I remembered: prim lawn, smug little garden gnome by the door, and that stupid family is everything plaque hanging by the window. I stood there for 10 whole minutes, just staring. Then I rang the bell. My mom opened the door, phone in hand. When she saw me, she blinked twice like I was a ghost. "Ugh, Tessa," she croaked. My dad came into view behind her, holding a bag of chips. "She's back? I knew she'd come crawling." I smiled. I didn't come to crawl, I came to bury. My mom narrowed her eyes. "What are you talking about? Where's Mason?" "Safe," I replied. "Far away from people who treat blood like poison." They tried to talk, to spin, to smirk. Dad even chuckled. "You still mad about a little desert drama?" "Oh, come on. You survived, didn't you?" I pulled out the folded letter Mason had written. I held it up. "This is what you lost." Mom tried to grab it. I yanked it back. "It's not yours anymore," I said. "You don't get to see what love looks like after you broke it." Dad leaned on the doorframe. "So what now? You here to throw some tantrum?" I reached into my bag and pulled out a small box, a battered brown shoebox. Inside, neatly stacked, were copies of every legal document I'd filed. Name change, notarized will removal, custody updates, bank account closures, and a handwritten letter I wrote them in the desert motel. At the bottom was a single photo of Mason smiling with Sandra, holding a birthday cupcake, the one you missed because you don't even know when it is. I handed it to my mom. "I'm here to erase you. Officially, emotionally, completely." She stared at the box like it was radioactive. I turned to leave. Dad shouted, "You think you're special now? You think that makes you better than us?" I turned back one last time, standing at the edge of their porch. "No," I said calmly. "I don't think I'm better. I know I'm free." Then I walked away. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I just erased them the way they tried to erase me. 2 years later, I stood in front of a small classroom of single mothers at a women's shelter in Arizona. I was a guest speaker sharing how to rebuild after betrayal. My name tag read, Tessa James. Mason sat in the back, doodling, happy, whole. One of the women asked, "How did you do it? How did you get out?" I smiled. "I got out when I stopped trying to make broken people hold sacred things. You can't build a future in a house that buried you alive." Outside, the wind picked up dry desert wind, the same kind that used to sting when I cried on the side of the road. Now it just felt like freedom, because they kicked me out like garbage. So I erased their existence like they never mattered. And I never looked back. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where